Well, we are here. It's Monday. As usual, the DCA pump is happening. I think CTO Larsson pre-requested it. He got his order in. And we have Marty as well. Mando is en route. A little bit delayed, but we're getting the show started anyway. We have so much to talk about today. It's not even funny. We'll even talk about we talk about convergence of crypto to AI, but we'll also talk about convergence of poop coins to Bitcoin and some crazy treasury action, legal action, maybe a potential hype killer, regulation, and so much more. First of all, Marty Party, tell us about your t-shirt.
This is the new Japanese Bitcoin MetaPlanet shirt. I got it. How cool is that? 21 million in Japanese.
In Japanese. Can you pronounce it for us, please? That's close enough. Okay. You're doing okay, I hope?
Yeah, I'm doing real good. We've been calling the whole conflict over the whole weekend and last week using air traffic radar, using all kinds of heat map radar, just watching this whole Middle Eastern thing play out with a clear understanding that it was basically used to pressure Iran to a deal. Looks like they're caving. They've asked Oman, Saudi Arabia to reach out to Trump to make a deal this morning, according to 2 Iranian sources. And looks like the market is very happy with that. So good news. Good. I think we're in for good news today. And we've got the Genius Act. We'll talk about that going forward. Yeah. Nice to see you guys. Yeah.
Okay, your mic is a bit rough today, Marty, if you want to tweak something there. Yeah, and CTO, let's just jump straight into the chart. And I hope you're doing fine, but we have a little bit of a pump happening right now. Can you walk us through the action?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I called the market and said, please buy for the DCA pump.
Yeah.
It's a joke. But the level that we have been watching here for months and months, guys, on this show has been this level, 106,100. And as you see so many times, every time it went up there, and it kind of got pushed back down again. Now it happened again. See here, these candles here where it got pushed down, pushed down, pushed down. And now it's again through that level. So the previous 2 attempts through didn't hold. They got pushed down again, tried again, tried again, tried again, tried again, pushed through, down again, tried again, tried again. Now, perhaps 3rd time's the charm. And I think when this kind of downwards pressure that has been here, when it stops, it can be explosive, guys. It can, because the buying interest is there. Sailors buying, treasuries are buying. A lot of people are eyeing Bitcoin as a safe asset at this point. It can be explosive up. So I'm very excited. I'm very happy to see this candle here today punching through the resistance level. And I'm very excited, actually. This could be it. It could be 3rd time's the charm.
Yep. Amanda's trying to get in the back door, so he'll be here in a second. But tell us about the price action. We're up over $2,000 today, which is pretty big. Sailor, we'll talk about Sailor and treasuries in a minute. We have the craziest stuff happening. Anything else going on in the world? I know that Solana had a bit of a pump last night, as well as some of the treasuries for these different assets and so much more. Mando, he's arrived. Good morning. We got the show started without you. I hope that's okay.
Sorry about that, guys.
No problem. Life happens.
Morning,
Life happens. We're just talking about the $2,000 Bitcoin pump. I know a few of you thought we'd hit a new all-time high last week. That was missed. But Mando, good afternoon. All good in the hood with you?
Yeah, great week. Yeah, it was a volatile week, actually. It felt like a lot happened from last show to the show before. But I think we came close to an all-time high. This level around 110 is still quite a lot of resistance. Let's see what happens.
I think we can add that maybe that, of course, the geopolitical tensions have increased, and very sad always when there is war happening, people suffering, people dying. I don't like wars. I hope that this will soon settle. And that, I think, was part of the explanation here why we had a drop. There's always increased risks when the big developments happen. At the same time, I do think that there are people who are looking at Bitcoin as a safe alternative similar to gold. And during the day today, I'm interested to hearing your perspectives if you think that narrative is playing out or if it's still a risk on asset.
Yeah, it's always the same every single time. We've seen this since late 2020, was it late 2022 with Ukraine? So Bitcoin initially dips, and then people realize, hold on a second, Bitcoin likes a crisis, and then it rises. And we're in that kind of situation now as well. So initially there is a little bit of a sell-off. But let's get into the agenda real quick. Let's talk about a couple of things. A lot of people now, the super cycle is back on the table. This is a thesis from Dan. His last name escapes me, way back in the day. And but there's some strange stuff bubbling up behind the scenes. We'll talk about the ETF. That seems to be bubbling up too. Altcoins are trying some new things. We'll talk about those. MicroStrategy had a massive buy. People want to know more about AI and crypto convergence again. When can we rely on that for helping our lives, helping our trading as well, across all the different asset classes? And we'll get into what people should do at the top. Should they sell the top, hedge the top, or do something else? Just hold on for dear life, and so much more. So let's get into the first story. Saylor bought 10,100 Bitcoin, a massive buy. They now have nearly 600,000 Bitcoin. The plan was for them to get to maybe 600,000 in the next couple of years, but it looks like they'll be there by next week at this rate easily. But buying nearly 10,000 Bitcoin is nearly a month of supply, which is bonkers. And all of it was done using preferred stock. The demand for these things are off the hook. And even more nuts, they're selling preferred stock at a premium, just like they were selling their ordinary shares at a premium too, which is completely insane. So I think this is worth talking about briefly. What do you guys think of this big buy and the flood of treasuries and the fact that even Saylor is advising Pakistan right now on their strategic Bitcoin reserve? Mando, over to you first. Treasuries, big.
Yeah, I mean, it's only really accelerating, isn't it? We've seen several more vehicles over the last week as well, seemingly being announced. It looks like Pomp is maybe going to have his own vehicle too. This is the way that crypto is entering TradFi at the moment, with these sort of vehicles or reverse SPACs, or where they change the strategy. I do think that this is a honeymoon period. There probably will be some time in the future where, particularly if they're using debt, we'll start to see some of these stories at least turn sour. But for now, this is really could drive Bitcoin to a much higher level. It feels like I felt like over the weekend, Bitcoin was trading around a little bit with what was going on in the Middle East, but that wasn't necessarily reflective, I think, of its safe haven, let's say, qualities. I think it's really just the only real asset that's open on a weekend, and people trade it around with how bad the scenario generally is perceived. And then as soon as TradFi markets opened last night, you saw everything rip. And I do think that gold hitting an all-time high is what you should be paying attention to here for Bitcoin. We also if you look at the 12-month lag chart again, I think we're about to see a big upturn in that 12-month lag chart, which is kind of where you see the push up to about 150K. So I think Bitcoin's in a very, very good spot here.
Yeah, and a quick reminder, at around 5:30 p.m., I was actually driving the car. My TradingView alarm went off. Gold hit a new all-time high of, I think it was around 34.50 or so. So yeah, that's ripping. And on a Sunday night, gold to be ripping, which, as usual, people are looking for a safety net. Any thoughts, CTO, on these treasury action? Literally, Michael Saylor has bought the next 3 years worth of issuance since September. One player. It's bonkers.
Oh, yeah. So the buying is there. There is no doubt about it. And I think the mysterious question has been here a little bit, who is selling at the very specific price level for quite a long time here. Is it manipulation, trying to hold it back to accumulate more? Or is it profit taking from people who bought early? In that case, why didn't they sell earlier? So it's a little bit mysterious, but I think exactly like you all said, and like Mando said here, I think Bitcoin is in a good spot here from every perspective. It could easily kick off fast and really rip.
Yeah. If Michael Saylor is buying from OTC desks, there's 10 weeks left at this rate of balance. And the big question you say, and that's what people are beginning to be very suspicious about, is where's all this Bitcoin coming from? Who is selling? Even when it's chopping sideways. Like, I can understand selling on a big spike to say 120K. Yeah, there'll be some profit taking. But who's selling here when they see all the goodness? Marty, what are you seeing in wallets and on chain? Do you see any suspicious stuff going on? You mentioned as well that...
First of all, a couple things. My perspective, I'll always stand by it. I don't believe that retail buys and sells Bitcoin to move the price. I believe it's wash traded by exchanges, causing suppression. I have evidence, obviously, Caroline on the stand. FTX did it at 30,000. Binance is doing it at 60 and 100. It's extremely easy for them. We can go into that anytime. So that's wash trading. Anyway, I think what I've been watching is Taiwan has been printing money like crazy. And their president, Ko Ju-chun, has emphasized a Bitcoin treasury, a sovereign treasury, if you read the narratives, very vocal about Bitcoin. And if you correlate Bitcoin to Taiwanese money supply, you'll see we're correlating exactly. My thesis is that Taiwan is the big buyer right now to hedge against the Chinese risk. And you can read on it. I've posted on it heavily, but that's my thought. But as far as the price action goes, I'm a firm believer in the Wyckoff, and we've stuck cleanly to the Wyckoff. 106,400 is the AR, the automatic reaction. We'll do lower highs, higher lows, and come back to 106,400. And now it's just about whether we move from accumulation, in other words, Larry Fink, MicroStrategies, and the institutions, whether they're ready and they've accumulated enough. I think they used the war narrative to perfection. Remember, this war has been brewing since 2012. This is not new. And so this narrative was absolutely perfect to flush the market one more time. And I think the next move is the markup. And so just like CTO said, the next move will be a large move. Whether it comes in June, I would put it around 60% chance. Obviously, we could still see one V-shaped flush with collusion from centralized exchanges just to flush their books. But I think ultimately the buying pressure on this asset is in unprecedented levels right now from large buyers, different buyers. This is a whole new cycle. And I think we're going to see Bitcoin go to, the 125,000 we've been talking about for a year now.
Yeah, and it's so true. I mentioned the Taiwanese hedge about 2 weeks ago in an Okta video because they are reducing, like everybody else, their reliance on U.S. Treasury reserves. What else do they stick in there? That's the big problem. And now we're having a situation. So it's funny because if I look at previous cycles, this is the phase where we have retail FOMO. But as we know, retail isn't in the game. There's the unit bias. They don't really have the appetite to buy $100,000 items and they want to get one coin. But now we're seeing potentially institutional FOMO.
Why don't we do this? So CTO, do me a favor, in the sideline, just go to TWM2, that's Taiwanese M2, and just correlate it with Bitcoin. And then just pull that up while James talks.
Yeah, everybody's pretty, but now we're having institutional FOMO. Everybody's copying, even though every zombie coin that has a little bit of cash or has the ability to raise money is buying Bitcoin. Mando, do you see treasury FOMO right now?
Oh, yeah. That's like the number one thing in the market, right? Like suddenly all these crypto guys are getting rich via stocks. It's kind of hilarious to see. I think what we saw with what happened with the ETH vehicle, SharpLink, that you'll find out more and more about the financing of how some of these have been done as well. And I don't think they're necessarily going to be as clean as you think they are. A lot of these people are putting up capital for a short-term game, and then they often have 1 to 2 month lockup before they can sell shares again. I've seen deals like that before in the last month, like people offering me deals like that. I think that a lot of these, particularly the ones where it's like a reverse SPAC or it's a it's like it's changing of a company strategy which never had anything to do with blockchain before. I think that's being financed potentially in these more predatory ways. But these other vehicles like Nakamoto or obviously Sailor or maybe the
CEP,
Tether,
Strive.
these vehicles seem very strong, and I can kind of only see them growing actually over the next year or so. So this is Bitcoin going mainstream, and I don't think it's particularly sexy, but it's doing it how it is, and maybe some of the shine of what crypto has stood for in the past is kind of maybe drifting away slightly, but I do think we are starting to see massive adoption, institutional adoption of crypto, and it's heading into TradFi. TradFi is really packaging this thing up.
Well, Mando, you just stepped on topic number 8, and that is the Bitcoin supercycle thesis, driven primarily by the institutional adoption surge. You look at the fastest ETF ever to $70 billion was BlackRock ETF for Bitcoin. Then we have the insatiable demand out of treasuries left, right, and center that are dropping tens of billions of dollars, more than all of retail investors combined could actually do. Now, the big question for the panel here and what the audience wants to know, not calling it a super cycle because that's a bit crazy, but technically we could be 10 weeks away from the OTC desks running out of Bitcoin. And just imagine sailors trying to buy 10,000 Bitcoin at a weekend, and he's going to Binance, he's going to Coinbase, he's going to spot markets around the world. Marty, what would happen when the OTC desks run out?
Well,
and somebody's looking to buy 10,000 Bitcoin?
When you buy an OTC desk, it doesn't affect the market price at all.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's an OTC price which is much lower than the retail market price. I think what we've seen over the last weeks is the OTC desks dry up and that price creep underneath the retail price, which I think probably it's around, in the 104 to 106 range probably right now. And so that's why we keep drifting back down there. But I think at some point that dries up, and absolutely, sovereigns, treasury companies, they're gobbling it up.
Yeah. Like I've even run the math. You know the optimal portfolio from BlackRock. They got 11.6 trillion under management. They now recommend at least 2% allocation to Bitcoin. That alone is enough to avoid a bear market. That perpetual bid coming in, it's bonkers. Any thoughts on this, CTO? And we'll talk about the craziest story of the day.
Yes. The thing is that the number of Bitcoins mined per day now is much less than it was in previous cycles. So it's 450 Bitcoin per day, something like that. So while Sailor is buying 10,000, just him. So the impact of the mining, which is what changes with the 4-year cycle, is less important now. So I'm not convinced. I actually thought it would happen already the previous cycle, that the 4-year cycle won't matter so much anymore. In fact, it did follow, but it can also be like a self-fulfilling prophecy a little bit. But from a fundamental perspective, exactly if it's how many Bitcoin, if it's 450 or 225 and so on, it doesn't matter so much, because we have these huge buyers, huge sellers who are moving much more Bitcoin around.
Well,
so I think we could see the end of the 4-year cycle.
And there's an added kicker to your thesis, CTO, about the miners selling 450. The biggest miners are stacking. That is Marathon. That is Riot. And in fact, Marathon is even buying as well as stacking. So the supply coming from miners isn't anywhere near 450 a day. It's probably more like 250, if that. And then you've got nation states mining on the sly. They're not disclosing they are mining, but they are mining. You got your Bhutans, you got your Russia, you got your China. I know they're all kind of mining secretly behind the scenes. Anyhow, the craziest story. So actually, quick round the panel. Super cycle? Probably not. But end of the 4-year cycle, Mando? Possible?
I think so. I've said it for a while. I think we're in a different plane, a different market here in terms of the buyers. I think I'd be surprised if we see a 4-year cycle. And what CTO said there makes a lot of sense as well. Like the supply dynamic is also exponentially shifting, right? So
Exactly.
I think it's something to pay attention to.
450 Bitcoin is not a lot of Bitcoin. Marty, end of the 4-year cycle or a Bitcoin super cycle? Or
sticking with my theory, I think we're in the process of a super cycle. In my opinion, I think we go for, smaller spread in the bear markets. Probably we run up to 250,000 this cycle and bleed out maybe back to 125, the top of this leg. So spreads will get smaller, bear markets will get less, going towards very little volatility in Bitcoin, probably towards 2030, where it becomes more of an index, sitting at probably around 1.5 million, I'd say. That's my
I'm
theory.
just getting excited thinking about the perp short at 250.
Exactly. There you go.
But let's get into the craziest story of the day, which actually is quite hard to believe. This is this guy, okay? He has criticized Bitcoin for as many years, at least. I've been making videos, nearly 5 years. Bitcoin crap, bad. Cardano is the future. Cardano is what Bitcoin should have been, yada, 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 for the longest time. Now, all of a sudden, okay, he's gone from Bitcoin hater to stacker. He's trying to create new forms of DeFi with Bitcoin on Cardano because Cardano DeFi is completely dead. Just like the chain itself, it's completely dead. Last I checked, it was 18,000 daily active users, which is probably just the people that run their staking pools. But now he wants to plan to allocate $100 million of the project's $1.2 billion treasury. And he apparently has some secret keys to some secret treasury as well somewhere. I don't know the details, but he wants to roll this into Bitcoin. Okay. And then he wants to find a way to leverage this Bitcoin as a treasury way to boost his Bitcoin DeFi on Cardano and generate yield via real world assets and DeFi strategies. I think a couple of months ago, he thought about doing AI on Cardano or pivoting Cardano to an AI play. Now, let's have a quick look before we ask how crazy this is. This is the DeFi on Cardano compared to Solana. You can see some of the deltas here. TVL, 3,000% higher on Solana. DEX volume, 100,000% higher on Solana. And stablecoin market cap, 35,000% higher on Solana. Just some statistics that are kind of interesting, but this is the craziest thing. It was not on my bingo card that I've heard. You got poop coins now pivoting to Bitcoin treasuries. I'll give this to you two first, Marty, because you had him on a Spaces. That must have been painful. I know you had fun, but tell me, what type of gasp is this?
Yeah, this is pretty shocking. I mean, I think it's probably the smartest thing that Cardano has ever done, on the side note. But anyway, I'm not quite sure how to fundamentally analyze this. I think whether it's a pipe dream, whether it's a reality, whether it's Charles's personal stash he's using, I don't know. But I mean, from the beginning, when I was there back in the very early days, Cardano was always posed as the better Bitcoin. I mean, it's just very interesting. I think he's just finally given up on the dream. I mean, at 0.8 TPS, the chain is dead. Not even one user on the TPS. So I think this is the last gasp. And, let's let it play out. I think it's embarrassing, personally.
Okay. I don't know if Charles is going to come back on your show.
James, I have no words. I can't. Yeah. I haven't analyzed it yet enough.
Yeah, man, is this a head scratcher for you too?
It's not a head scratcher. Like I said, I kind of think it's a very smart move.
It's a smart move.
Yep. I think even people on Cardano would admit that it has failed to fulfill many of the aims it potentially originally hoped for, at least in terms of users. And a pivot towards Bitcoin DeFi, they've signaled for quite a while. I remain highly skeptical that it will work, but I do think this is one of the few things that remains a golden goose in crypto, getting people to do stuff with their Bitcoin. And he's gonna give it a shot. So it makes complete sense to me that he's doing this, but it probably speaks to running out of options.
Yeah, a last gasp. CTO, you've seen a lot of action across Cardano, at least since 2020, up, down, sideways, indifferent, some pumps, some mostly dumps. What's
exactly.
your take?
I try not to brag so much on this channel, but now I think I will make an exception. So if I can please show a chart
Yes,
here.
sir.
Because it was in September, I think 12th of September 2021, Cardano had this big upgrade where they added the smart contract capability. Remember, they didn't really have it, and they did a big upgrade. I can't remember the name, but they added the smart contract capability. And then I thought, okay, maybe they will have some chance. But then I saw some guys who tried to implement a DEX using that smart contract capability, and they couldn't implement the most basic and number one use case of a smart contract functionality in crypto, which is to do a decentralized exchange. They couldn't do it. There was some complexity, and they had some workarounds and batch something and offline. But I realized, my God, it doesn't work. They can't even build a DEX on that. That was that launch. And then I said before that guys, this could actually be, everyone was very excited about that launch. And I said, guys, this could be a buy the rumor, sell the news type of event. And I said this could be a top. And that was actually there on the 12th of September. And I had it at the chart, guys. You can find some videos and go back. So that could be the top. And it has so far been the top in ADA to BTC. And this is down 10x, I think, from here to here. It's down minus 90% in BTC terms. So yeah, that has not been very successful. That's just a fact.
Why would this make you want to buy ADA? I mean, why wouldn't this just make you want to buy Bitcoin? So it's an interesting thing, right? Like, what is the motivation to buy ADA anymore as a Bitcoin layer 2?
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I need to analyze it further.
Exactly. Craziness.
I thought he was doing a play with XRP. I thought I saw that earlier today. Wasn't there?
He's trying everything. He also hates XRP too, but AI pivot, XRP pivot, Bitcoin pivot, anything to bring any attention back to the 18,000 people that use the chain, who are probably all stake poolers. But the funniest thing is watching the Cardano YouTubers online.
Well, and the other interesting thing, guys, is that I posted, Charles, is why is USDC not issued on Cardano yet?
It doesn't work. The chain doesn't work. The chain's busted, man.
They always use the answer, well, because they want $8 million up front. I'm like, okay, you just announced a Bitcoin treasury. Like, you have $8 million. So get stablecoin on ADA, at least it has a use case. Like, I don't understand. I'm confused.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy stuff. So let's pivot a little bit, because people, again, want to know what's going on with, of course, maybe you have a chart on rising Bitcoin dominance, and we've covered, sorry, here we are. Altcoin relevance in this Bitcoin denominated market. When you have altcoins pivoting their treasury to Bitcoin, that's a signal, everybody. We talk about signal and noise a lot. That's a signal to dump your Cardano, okay? If they're dumping it into Bitcoin, what does that tell you? Or maybe I'm analyzing this in too crude a manner. But we have this rising Bitcoin dominance. We've got the ETFs. We've got the treasuries. It's going insane, despite the fact that we have LAX guy here mentioned something that I quoted. We have one chain on one DPIN chain called Helium, which is 1.1 million daily active users. The amount of adoption across crypto is insane. It's not happening on Bitcoin. Bitcoin on chain is total store of value metric type stuff, because the coin has been socked away and locked into MicroStrategy's bags, ETF bags, etc. And those percentages are becoming pretty phenomenal. Long-term holders will hold. They're holding till 2030 for the most part. But now the challenge is, what do we do with these altcoins? Like Solana. Aave had a huge pump recently. It was great to see. I used to play that one back in 2021. Jupiter does a truckload of business. Zeus is trying to get relevant. Radium got hit. And then we'll talk about hype next too. But before we get on to that subject and the potential hype killer, any thoughts on altcoins right now, Mando? I know you like Ethereum, and you and I have that little secret wager going on. That's very public on Twitter 2 weeks ago. What do you think?
I find it really difficult to bet against Bitcoin dominance. I've said this before. My two biggest bags right now are Bitcoin and ETH. That might be really boring, but I like ETH, as I've said before, just for the next couple of months, just because I think we're going to get some form of a staking ETF, and it feels as though just ETF inflows might carry this thing higher. So Bitcoin dominance is kind of just stuck around 64%. We can't just be like, oh, we're so bullish alts. What we're seeing here is money is coming into these Bitcoin treasury companies, and it's not necessarily flowing into degens buying altcoins. And I think you might see something similar now with Ethereum, just given it has a lot of the rails. We saw a good sign from Solana this week that it looks like they are now going to get a staking ETF. And I don't know if that would be, I think Polymarket added about 50-50 odds before the end of July, because seemingly the language and the moves by the SEC make it seem more likely. So maybe 50% chance we get one before July, and if not, it will definitely happen before the end of December. So I think you're setting the stage for Solana to be the next major ETF as well. So I think you can get bullish on some of those. The other big one's Hype. Hype is just hit another all-time high today. So yep. I think if I've not been that adventurous, let's say, in my altcoin buys. By altcoins right now, I'm buying L1s, and it's really those four which I'm looking at.
Yeah, awesome. Marty, tell us about this alt season world. When is it coming? And I do believe the Sol ETF will kick it off, or even strengthen Ethereum. Yeah. And I hope, by the way, I am hoping that Mando wins the bet with ETH versus Sol, because that means it's going to, like, if ETH goes to the moon, everything else will follow. And that's the catalyst we're looking for.
To me, the biggest news in crypto is Solana. There really isn't nothing else going on. They have 8 coin shares now put out an ETF S1 this morning. Now, Eric Balchunas thinks 95% chance of ETF approvals before the end of June. Okay, so this could happen very soon. We saw 8 S1s updated with symbol names and fee structures on Fridays. This is happening faster than you've ever seen. They're all staking ETFs. They're all in kind, everything you want in an ETF. So we have 8 staking in kind ETFs coming. We have Fire Dancer. We have Alpenglow 100 millisecond finality. The Seeker phone that no one's even talking about is going to change the game and disrupt the duopoly. We've got TouchPay USDC rails with, I've got the guys on the space. These guys have invented technology to do instant settlement TouchPay like cash with Solana, which is the golden goose. We've got stable coins. We don't talk about a genius that could pass today or tomorrow. We saw Circle bumping up to $164 today. That is the biggest narrative right now. We've got Double Zero doing their test net right now, running 1 million transactions a second. We've got Dogecoin and Bitcoin liquidity coming onto Solana through several different projects, and it's battle tested. I just think you can't deny all of that build-up, which is typical of Solana, a roadshow. It's coming. The release cycle is coming. So if you look at the public market, you must understand it's very different to the OTC market. We've got Solana treasury companies buying Solana just as strongly as Bitcoin. It's going to pop off in a big way, and people aren't ready for it.
And don't forget Seeker. Everybody here in the audience has bought Seeker. I ordered one too as well. Yeah, CTO, what's your take on where we are? Do you still hold your altcoins? Mando told us what his bags are. We know what Marty's are.
Yeah, so if I can show some interesting charts here.
Yeah, hold on.
So there is no doubt that Bitcoin dominance keeps rising on every time frame. Doesn't matter if we look here, or we zoom out a little bit here, it's still up. We zoom out here, it's up. We zoom out even more, it's just up. So since end of 2022, it's basically just been a series of straight lines up, and it still is. And then it feels like this will never end, right? It feels like there will never be another alt season. This is it, and Bitcoin dominance will just go up forever. Excuse me. I don't think so. I think that it always feels like that. And that's, when everyone really give up on the alts, that could be the time when it actually turns. So, and then how will we know before that happens? We won't know, but I think we can see the signs when it's actually happening, or at least we can make some qualified guesses. And an interesting observation is what you were both talking about here already. That is Ethereum, which is the biggest altcoin by market cap. And whether we love or hate Ethereum, it would no doubt be good for the whole altcoin market if Ethereum starts ripping. And if you look here, this is ETH to BTC. First, we had a solid bottom pattern here. We talked about it at the time, right? Then we had a big markup. Now there's a consolidation. This is an ascending triangle. That means that someone is selling here at this level, but each time it goes down less because people are stressed and buying at higher and higher levels. So right now, it could be the first small sign of the market changing a little bit here. We can't say for sure yet, but it's definitely interesting. And then if we combine that with absolute depression in the Solana market, just goes down all the time, feels hopeless. At the same time, as Marty said, there's a lot of things happening with the ETFs. Bybit is launching a DEX on Solana.
Yeah, we're getting to that next.
A couple of days ago.
Yep.
And, so when everyone's saying that, there will never be another altcoin market, Bitcoin dominance will go up forever, it's all over, guys. It will only be Bitcoin from here on. I don't think so. I think that we will have tremendous opportunities in the altcoins many more times. I don't think for a minute that the human speculation is going anywhere.
Yeah, Marty, I've got a question for you. Is it concerning? We have 8 Sol ETFs out there. BlackRock did not file one. Why?
No, Fidelity did, BlackRock did not. Probably just because BlackRock has got the Ethereum ETF. I think they're still in that process, but it could come any day. So just because.
And what BlackRock gets, they can use AI to create the filing anyway in 5 minutes if they need it, and BlackRock gets whatever they want from the SEC. So not a concern there. But you believe they will come in?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think so. Will they be too late? Probably. I mean, Fidelity's in there, so it might be Fidelity's move. We've got 21 shares. All the other guys, Galaxy, Grayscale, everybody else except BlackRock. But I think it's any day now.
And by the way, the thing that we hinted at, but we need to bring attention to, is staking for these ETFs is an absolute game changer. That's part of the reason I believe for the ETH pump, extra 3% kicker. But remember, don't choose an asset because of a 3% kicker, is my take. Let's talk about this one.
A lot of people do. You have to realize that actually, like, the people that these wealth managers are selling it to, 3% is a big deal. Like, there's an untold amount of money in stuff that gets you 4 to 7% a year. So if you can pitch something that gets a yield on top of, let's say, new tech, it's a really big deal. There's been a lot of talk about, how slow the ETH ETFs were to get initial inflows, right? They took many months, and it was very much to do with the narrative. It was very difficult to pitch what this was after the Bitcoin ETF. Maybe that's why BlackRock's been a little bit slow too. Like, maybe they're just getting around to be able to pitch the ETH ETF. And I think staking is a much bigger deal outside of crypto than it is inside of crypto to some of these traditional money managers.
And Mando, if people get excited by 3%, Great White Hype is wondering what happens if you get 7 or 8%.
Exactly, which will be a big deal, and it will help. Hopefully, it will, because what you don't want to get is Solana get its ETF and then it has a slow start, just like ETH did. Remember, ETH got its ETF and then nothing really happened and it just kind of languished. I think the idea, if you get a staking ETF with Solana, hopefully it speeds up that process.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Let's talk about the very big story right now is, and Marty, this is for you. You were the first one on this story, by Real. They want to build a hyperscaler.
I'll get the true alpha from Ben, the CEO of Bybit. He'll be on the space. But yeah, I mean, this is the next move for centralized exchanges. We all know Hyperliquid and the creation of the CLOB, a central limit order order book. So basically, the premise is you have centralized asset reserves, like a centralized exchange, and they bridge them to a transparent order book so that you can see the perpetual trades. So this is the industry of perpetual trading, which is just another word for gambling. These are just casinos. Let's not sugarcoat it. This is all crypto use case casino. But it's good because it creates, a more transparent casino, which, mitigates manipulation and makes it a little bit more fair, that you can see other people's trades and, you can see your trades on chain and it's not all opaque behind the covers. And we saw CZ very vocal a month ago about this, saying, why would you want a transparent perpetual exchange? You don't want your $100 million position to be visible. And we saw that with James Wynn and all of the trouble that came his way from being visible. So Hyperliquid did this, and it's a fantastic project. I mean, you can't argue with its success and its performance. There are some obviously concerns with Hyperliquid, and that is that it sold itself as a decentralized exchange when it's just another, all the assets are centrally held on multi-sigs using hyperunit, just like a centralized exchange, and with a bridge. So, there's a couple of human beings with the keys to all of the Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana being traded on Hyperliquid. It doesn't have decentralized assets other than its own native token, Hype. So that's the same problem. Also, it's only got 21 validators and they all sit in Tokyo. So it's not very decentralized at all. Its Nakamoto coefficient is not even in the single digits. So it's a great idea. It's a brilliant new use case. It's highly adopted. People love to gamble, and it's done very well. So it spawned the idea, and now it appears as if all the centralized exchanges are saying, hang on a second, we've got heaps of liquidity. We're just going to spin up our own club. And so you see Bybit has now announced they're going to do it. It's called ByReal, will be out next week. They've gone with Solana. They're going to do the same thing as Hyperliquid using their liquidity and, a transparent order book. And I expect Binance to follow suit, OKX, etc. And that'll be the next wave and next narrative going into 2026. Will be transparent clubs, a new form of gambling where you can see everyone's trades, make more of a social gamification. I think that's the thing of interest, is the way Hyperliquid created this sort of like social gamification of perpetual trading. And I think that's the next move. So we'll see how this goes. I'll talk to Ben. I'll find out exactly technically how they did it, whether they built an L2 on Solana, whether they're using Solana native, et cetera, et cetera. The good thing about Solana is it does have permissionless technology for bringing assets, without a bridge. And so that'll be interesting. If we can do that, that would be very exciting. But there you go. So
especially cross-chain action as well. And it's rare I do agree with CZ, but personally, I like trades to be private. I don't want everybody watching what I do. But anyway, that's just me. Mando, does this impact Jupiter? Big question in the audience.
Yeah, it could affect a lot of different people. People don't really realize how much money these exchanges make, right? I think they make untold amounts of money. Remember, Bybit lost a few $1 billion a few months ago.
Yeah, and brushed it off.
Drop in the ocean. This could be a very well funded if it's done this way. And I think that's what CZ was basically alluding to with Binance as well. These dark pools in TradFi, they were used, but there was always a concept that they weren't really quite dark enough, and some people might have the information. I don't know if I'd fully trust a dark pool from a centralized exchange. I do think that sometimes that can be manipulated, but these sort of DEXs, we've seen Coinbase launch one now, Bybit's launch one, and Binance is 100% going to go down this route too. So you're going to see some of these from all the major exchanges. And I think this will be a challenge to Hyperliquid.
Yeah, and excellent point. And what you're hammering on there, Mando, is again more convergence. We have convergence of TradFi into Bitcoin. We have convergence of AI and crypto. Now we've got convergence of SEXs and DEXs, centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges. CTO, what's the future going to look like? In your era digitalis, is everything just going to be together?
Yeah, I think the thing that is kind of hard to copy, that is the customers, the customer base, the audience, and that is really the value. There's a lot of people who want to use Bybit. Then there's other people who want to use Coinbase. They trust that. And there's other people who want to use Binance. They like that. But then how it works under the hood, most people don't really understand and don't care so much. So if there are more tools under that brand that gives more, maybe can reduce the risk of the centralized exchange going bankrupt with all the money to kind of retain some self-custody, I think a lot of people are going to like that. And I think that's a good development. And I know that they're all trying to go in that direction to kind of marry a little bit of the DeFi with the centralized exchange user experience that is typically easier to use, easier to onboard for most people. And I think that's a really great development, actually. And then which one is going to win? Will it be Bybit's offering, or will it be Binance offering, or Coinbase, or some other player, or so on? I don't know. I think it will be some combination.
Well, it's always winner take most, but it depends on the very specific use case that the very specific user would want. So you might have the buy real for the James Wins of the world. The Jupiter may still cater to people like me, perping away and stuff. Who knows? I wouldn't put $100 million in a perp, by the way, just FYI.
In my opinion, this is all a temporary arbitrage. I think the real use case for crypto is coming, and that's going to be stablecoin and tokenized equities, real world assets. I think capital markets, and that's going to be the next frontier, 2026, post regulation, and I think everything will change. This is all just casinos we're talking about now, and that was the first use case of crypto, and that's fine and all. Probably should be regulated by the Nevada Gaming Commission or something. But at the end of the day, this is all preparation for tokenized equities. So the stock market will move on to crypto, and then all hell will break loose. We've got TradFi merging with crypto, and that's going to be, a game changer. The liquidity will be ridiculous.
And we're coming to tokenization. Yeah, we're coming to tokenization in a minute. Jumping the gun, but this is another top topic that people want to know. People are very fearful of AI, changing everything. AI, AGI, ASI, whatever you want to call it. AI and crypto. Mando, for you, we have crazy stuff happening in the AI world, and we have crypto tiptoeing into this as well. We've got stuff like Camino doing some very exciting things with AI agents. I have a guy I work with. He's using AI agents now to find stuff, research, and everything else. It's kind of crazy. What people want to know, though, how far are we away from not having to trade anymore where AI agents will trade for us? Is that 2 years, 4 years, 1 year? Never? Tough one.
There are some ways you can do it right now. Like there are some there are AI agents, particularly on Solana, which got pretty far down this road earlier this year and continue to innovate around it. I would say an AI agent is as useful as the power you give it. And what you've seen increasingly is that people don't feel like 100% confident giving these AI agents like hundreds of thousands of dollars to trade. Do you know what I mean? You really do have to trust the system. They're good for, you can start to use them for very simple things like, hey, can you do this swap for me? Or could you find out this data for me? Blockchain data, for example. Some of the AI agents are more information based than trading based. At some of the top hedge funds, obviously, I think they're now starting to really experiment with this stuff. They've been using AI for a long time to build a lot of their models, and I think in a closed environment, they might feel pretty confident in basically allowing automatic trading via these agents as well. You kind of already have this, but I don't know if retail. I wouldn't say it should be trusted with it is the right term, but like I don't know if retail wants to trust these things enough at this stage to like do everything for them. So I think we'll see. I think it will take slightly longer potentially, given all the self-custody stuff, to actually fully allow these things to do things for you. But we like at the same time, it could be a case of like who moves first wins, and we might see big institutions start to use these on an institutional scale and dominate in various different forms of trading.
Yeah, and just to touch on AI, there's something happening that's absolutely mind-blowing. A company called Oracle Marty, you know Oracle. Oracle's up 60% in 2 days. Okay, 60% in 2 days. Larry Ellison was on the earnings call. We all know Larry very well. And basically, they said one customer came to them and said, I want to buy all of your compute inference capacity, all of it, across the entire planet. One customer. And people thought, Oracle's not really an AI play. They have their Oracle cloud infrastructure, kind of like Azure has and AWS has and GCP has with Google. All of a sudden, people are beginning to see this insatiable demand, and I'm seeing echoes of 1999 all over again, which I lived through.
I mean, you must understand, Larry Ellison, Oracle has probably the largest data center structure in the universe. They run data. They run Web 2.0 data for everybody. Yeah. Oracle's the biggest database company in the world. So blockchain is just a newer version of a database. So Oracle are coming in, and Larry Ellison, I worked for him for 20 years in my career. I was recruited by Oracle from South Africa to Silicon Valley. That was my career. He does not screw around. Larry Ellison has come in big time, and he'll use his data centers for AI, and everyone will want it because they trust him. So he has all of the institutional players, everybody from Amazon to Walmart to Apple, Tesla. Everyone uses Oracle for their financials. Deloitte's
also their customer success CRM suite too, ERP,
right?
Everything, whatever else.
So he's got the customers. So we all know customer acquisition is the hardest part in business. He's got the customers. He's got the machines, the physical hardware. He just has to switch it from Web 2 data to Web 3 data and AI, and away we go. So don't count out Oracle. And
Mando, what are your thoughts?
I know he must be close to the richest man in the world now, right? If the stock is up that much.
No, he is the biggest owner by far of any big Fortune 500 company.
Before, I thought he must be.
He has like 30% of Oracle or something, and he used to be the CEO. I think Safra Katz is now the CEO. But just the reason we're bringing this up is not trading Oracle after a 60% run in 2 days, but for a company that size to run 60% in 2 days, I want the audience to understand how risk happens fast, both ways, up and down, especially in this AI thing. And we're going to see more 60%, $1 trillion company gainers coming because of what is happening with AI. The question is, CTO, do you see this demand going on forever or expiring and running out of steam at some stage?
I think AI is going to disrupt even more than we can imagine. I keep getting impressed. Now this week, OpenAI launched this O3 Pro model that's even better than the previous one. And oh wow, it's getting really, really good. Then translating that
is it putting you out of a job yet?
CTO?
Not yet. So I think this is a very good question. What remains then? And when it comes to trading, anything that is easy to do, there's no value in that. Right? If you can do something and you can go in ChatGPT or Grok or whichever favorite AI engine you have, and it can do something for you. You can spin up a bot and it can trade and make money, and it's that easy. Just press a button, money comes out. Okay, what do you think is going to happen? There will be 10,000, 100,000, 1 million people doing the same thing until that opportunity is gone. So anything that is like short-term cycles, there is no value in that. Even if you do find some mechanism where AI can actually do it, the opportunity is going to fill up immediately until it doesn't exist anymore. So what remains is the long-term difficult questions where AI can't answer, at least today. Maybe in 10 years it will be different. Maybe we will have super intelligence or something that can figure it out. But right now, it doesn't help to have AI and ask, how far will Bitcoin go? Will Ethereum really make it? Or will Solana take over? Or is it going to be Sui who takes over? Or is Charles Hoskinson going to surprise us all, and the future will all use ADA? Like, AI doesn't know. AI can't answer the big question. Will it be Larry Ellison, or will it be, which will be the big data center provider in the future? AI doesn't know. It can't answer that anything any more than anyone else. So those opportunities still exist. The long-term trends of technology, they will exist, and they will exist a long time ahead. But if you're day trading 5-minute candles and think that you're going to make money on that thing using AI, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to work. Even if you find something that works, it's gone. The opportunities is dead tomorrow. I can almost guarantee it.
That's an excellent point. I forgot to mention as well, everybody, thank you all for coming. The link, we're not done yet. The links are down below for Mando's newsletter, Mando on X, Marty on X with his crazy spaces, and CTO as well, his YouTube channel and all that stuff. It'll be in the comments below. This leads us, so this whole AI thing is kind of crazy. We're not going to spend too much time on it because there's a lot of other stuff we need to touch on real briefly as we run through this. But a lot of people have questions right now as to how they can play what's called the tokenization of everything. This, let me see if I can pop this up. I hope this is the right slide. You mentioned earlier, Marty and Mando, everything will be tokenized. Everything's real world assets. In fact, the real or the buy real thing also has an element of that too. How do you play tokenization of the world and real world assets today, everybody? Is there a play, or is it on traditional type rails like PayPal, Stripe, etc.? What do you guys think? Who wants to take that first?
I mean, the whole point of blockchain and Web3 is to remove intermediaries. So PayPal, all of the MasterCard, Visa, they're all intermediaries fighting for their lives. I don't see them as part of the future. I think it'll all be on L1. It'll all be the fastest settlement. So whatever networks have the fastest settlement or a roadmap which will deliver the fastest settlement as soon as possible will be the winners.
Devil's advocate on that one. Marty, devil's advocate on that one. A lot of people say people with real world assets want the steadfast security and the Lindy effect of Ethereum, and they don't care about waiting 10 minutes to know if their transaction went through. Is that a fallacy?
I mean, that's just narrative. 90% of exploits in 2023, 2024, and now in 2025 are on Ethereum. So I don't know what do you want to tell them? Ethereum is the biggest risk in all of crypto from a technical perspective. You can ask anyone. Go ask the lead architects from every other project. They'll tell you. Even Charles Hodgkinson will explain you the errors and issues in Ethereum. Wow. It's just a ticking time bomb.
Wow, that's crazy. And Mando, you're right, by the way. Larry Ellison moved up to number 2 ahead of Zuck and Jeff Bezos. Boom.
Yeah,
snap.
He's up there for sure.
Yeah. Thank you, CTO, for that. Mando, counterpoint to Marty on Ethereum. Does latency matter?
I mean, it's not 10 minutes to see it, see a transaction approved. I agree that Ethereum loses in its modular approach, right? It's really not. It's really been proven that it's not been the strongest way for the base asset Ether to grow. I still think it has a lot going for it. It has a lot of TVL, it has a lot of users, and I would definitely not count it out. That's what I'm saying. I also think that I've said this several times before, that I think there's a big difference between using blockchains and the actual currency that underpins them. I think ETH has got a better case as a store of value than Solana, for example, although it is failing pretty hard on the use for transactions. It has slightly lower burn and is you have more holders. It's slightly more dispersed in that sense. So I think it probably ranks higher than Solana right now in terms of a store of value asset. Maybe that changes in the future, and maybe you need the payments network for that to work. But I think that is quite a big thing for actual crypto. Like Bitcoin has got that narrative. Half the other cryptos around that have any sort of value are around that sort of narrative. So I think that is also a natural transition, I think, of a blockchain. Maybe Solana's inflation, for example, is going to come down to 1.5% over many, many years. And maybe we will see that. Maybe we'll see a move to that view. But right now, I think Solana's main bull case is that it is a multiple of its fee revenue. And that is a very, very strong bull case. But that's not the only reason why you own a crypto asset.
No. So your tokenization real world asset play is Ethereum. Marty, what's your real world
I
asset
think
play?
I actually think it can be Solana.
Okay.
I think it can be any of the L1s. I think ETH will do well in that world. I think Solana will do very well in that world too. But I'm not saying that's the only reason why people own crypto assets.
Got it. Marty, what's your tokenization play?
I mean, technology, you talk about first mover advantage. It's a mess. There's two main vectors in technology that people need to understand: adoption and first mover advantage. They're the hardest things. They take up 80% of your raise. Getting users and getting in fast, getting live fast in order to get the Lindy effect, the network effect started. And Ethereum has got first mover advantage. It's undeniable. It's been around for 10 years. It was the first smart contract platform. Everybody jumped into it. BlackRock, institutions, they saw it as a better Bitcoin. Solana has got better technology. It's got more adoption. It's got more users using it every day. So they're interesting and might even be seen as different. I think being put in the same box has been a problem all along. You might equate an L2 more to Solana than Ethereum to L1. The L1 is more like a sort of pseudo store of value. I think a lot of people hold Ethereum and they don't really use it. It's seen as a value store like Bitcoin, which it's not. It's proof of stake, which a lot of people argue, why did it move from proof of work? If it had stayed on proof of work, it would probably be a good second to Bitcoin. So it's kind of a hegemony. It's a little bit of a hybrid. Solana is pure speed, pure settlement, pure network effect, pure adoption. It's a retail chain. It's looking to replace capital markets. It's not fighting to be a store of value. So I think Ethereum needs, what do they call it, a North Star. And they have first mover advantage. They don't have a North Star. They have a very long roadmap. In order to compete as an L1 will be probably in the 2030s only ready. And I think by then will be too late. In my opinion, after the Solana roadshow with all of these new releases, especially obviously when they get to 100 millisecond finalization and 00 goes live, Larry Fink is not an idiot. Once he realizes that Ethereum can't run over 1,000 TPS on the current internet and they need a private internet, then he'll start to learn about 00 and he'll realize that Solana have been working on this for 3 years. They're so far ahead. Okay. They've even got the mobile network. They come from Qualcomm. Solana is named after Solana Beach, which is the headquarters of Qualcomm. They're far ahead. Okay. And you won't be told that in the news. You'll have to come to more technical spaces to understand it. But once that roadmap and that roadshow begins, no one will be able to compete. Okay, and that's the advantage of Solana. So, in my opinion, Ethereum made a fatal mistake by moving off proof of work. If they went proof of stake, they should have instantly started to rewrite Ethereum from C into a more modern programming language to create faster settlement. And now they're kind of stuck in the middle. They've got billions and billions of dollars sitting on Ethereum used as a reserve asset to L2s. And you can't argue that. Ethereum is used as a reserve asset to the L2 networks. But if you look at L2s, they're just sequences. They're not even blockchains. They're just fast sequences that gather information into their own second database, roll it up in a rollup, in a ZK rollup, and write it to Ethereum in a timely manner.
We're at the hour. I'm gonna have to cut you off. We've got two very quick topics I do want to tackle real quick, and this will be two very quick fire round things. First, top strategy. People are really getting anxious now, and rightly so. I like the way they're thinking ahead. They want to know, okay, what do I do with this top? I missed the top last time. It caused me tremendous PTSD. Now I've got different options. Can I borrow against my Bitcoin so I don't have to sell it and I can still cover my living expenses, take my lifestyle chips? Should I sell the top, rotate into something else? Or sell the top and rotate into one of these new products like STRK, STRF, Misty, who knows what. There's so many options on the table right now for people. I know, Mando, I played JLP back in 2024. What do you say to people right now for the top strategy so they can start wrapping their heads around it? Because you don't want to be seeing a top, say the crazy 250K that Marty spoke of, and not be prepared with a plan. What do you think the options are, and what do you have in mind?
Look,
Great question.
I've really gone kind of all in on crypto. I obviously have a percentage of stables, but like it's not like I'm just going to sell out and buy something outside, or I've kind of taken off the chips I need to do that. So I never really think about it like this. I always just consider like how much of my portfolio should be Bitcoin. I think as we break all-time highs on Bitcoin, I'd be assessing it on a weekly basis, and I'll probably be reducing part of my altcoins either into Bitcoin or part of my Bitcoin into stables. But I don't think I'd ever go to more than a max of like 30% stables. Let me put it that way. Right now, I kind of keep it between, normally around 15%. But I don't think I'm necessarily going to get out of crypto. I'll just reduce my risk.
Exactly. Never sell all your Bitcoin. You never know what's going to happen. Crazy things can happen in the world, as we just saw with Oracle. An old tech company just went up 60% in 2 days. Bonkers. CTO, what are your thoughts? Take a bit of risk, de-risk, like Mando said, or pivot, or rotate, or hedge, or borrow against your Bitcoin? So many options.
There is. Yeah, I will keep doing what I've done. It's worked well so far. So I have kind of written out, actually, written it down. What are my criteria for identifying a top pattern? And if that happens, then I will drastically reduce my exposure to Bitcoin, because in the previous cycles, now we can debate if it will repeat or not, but in all the previous cycles, Bitcoin has corrected between 80 and 85%. It's impossible to catch the entire move, or I would argue it's mostly luck if selling the exact top and then rebuying at the exact bottom. I think that's very difficult to do, but it's arguably possible to avoid most of the drawdown with most of the money. So that's my plan. If we get there, I don't think it's now, just for clarity. People start talking about double top and so on. This is not a double top in classical charting. But if we do get like an actual top pattern and trend starts turning down and so on, I will take defensive action with the hope that this kind of manipulation, psychological manipulation, will continue one more time. A lot of people say now that the institutions are here, there will be no drawdowns, no manipulations. I don't think so. These are the professional manipulators, guys, who have manipulated markets for 100 years. They know exactly how to do it. And like Marcus said, they will latch on to negative news, at the same time dump on the market. Everyone will panic, price goes down, and they latch on to the next negative news, and they kind of drive markets down, so that they can rebuy at the bottom when everyone is depressed and selling at the bottom. So my bet is that will continue, and then I will try to take advantage of it. I don't know if I will be successful. So what I'm saying is I will try to avoid holding on the way down and try to rebuy again when bottom formation start. That's my strategy. It's not suitable for everyone, but that's my plan.
Awesome. Good stuff. Nearly 13,000 people watching live. That's the biggest DCA we've had this year, from what I recall. Final topic, real fast, and then we let everybody go and get on with their Monday. This one, money. Marty, CTO, I know we have a chart on this. Taiwan M2. We have global M2 growing like crazy. It continues global liquidity all over. We have geopolitical conflicts. We have Jerome Powell being stubborn, not cutting risk. A quarter of the US budget goes to paying interest. It's a silly situation. Rate cuts have to come by September. Bookmark this, my guarantee. And those rate cuts could be 50 basis points or even 100 basis points, which will be big. De-dollarization is happening. Nobody wants treasuries. A quick word from you, Mando, and then we're going to go to CTO on an M2 chart and then finish with Marty. Mando, liquidity, what's going on? Treasuries, Bitcoin, gold new all-time high.
You're going to see the Fed cut rates, I think, this week. I think China, there was a story last week that China is going to draw from a $1.5 trillion fund to support their housing market. The housing market continues to trend lower there. The only solution to that is to pump more money. The population dynamics are just completely against them. So you're going to see untold amounts of pumping coming out of China. The US, I don't think is quite on the at least traditional QE sense. You have them buying back some debt at the moment. I think they bought back another 10 billion last week. But I think you're going to see a bit of a shift here from the Fed. And I think you're going to see rate cuts on the horizon this week. In terms of geopolitics, look, there's a lot of noise around a lot of this stuff. I don't think the impact of the oil market is probably going to be as big as people might fear. I think it's a very low chance that Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, which would be the real worry here. And as a result, I think you're really just focused on global liquidity, which if you use that, like I said earlier in the show, that lag model, then we're seeing a big upturn in the next few weeks. So I think you can ignore a lot right now and just know that global money printing is going to take you high.
Awesome. CTO and Marty, do you have a chart for us? Is this the one with the Taiwan money supply straight up and to the right?
Oh, yeah. Show that.
I can share this one. This one was the one you sent, Marty.
Yep. There's your correlation. Taiwan printing money. Look at that spike. That was our bottom on Bitcoin. That's the start of the rally. Continues up every time Taiwan prints, we move up. Yeah, as far as I go, I think, James, what I tell my people is that it depends on your age. A lot of people don't talk about this. Your exit of crypto should be also, and all investment should be, you don't take it where you go. When you die, you leave your crypto. Don't make the fatal mistake of dying with crypto, like spend it. So depending on your time horizon, if you're an older person and, you have 20 years left, take some profits at a decent pump. Enjoy your life. Saving money forever is not a great way to live your life. It's a lot of stress and tension, and you might be missing out. So I think depending on your age, if you're a young buck earning fiat, mining fiat, you can wait. You can wait and stack longer. And then for exiting, I think wait for some form of stimulus before you exit. Obviously, I agree with Mando. I think that with the Besant said, the deregulation of banks is coming. What he's meaning by that is that the QE won't come from the Fed. I think everyone's watching the Fed to stimulate the economy. I think that model is old. I think the banks who print money into existence will stimulate the economy. They will be allowed to buy more treasuries through stable coins, which is all waiting on the Genius Act, which is getting voted on today or tomorrow. Once the Genius Act gets voted, then crypto becomes legal tender. Then banks can start to buy treasuries, infinite treasuries, according to Scott Bessent, and start to print stable coins into existence and pump them into the world. That's your signal. That will start the rally. Once that rally peaks, I believe, is when you start to see crypto television ads.
Awesome. Yep. And Trump also got approved for his big Bitcoin buy too, the Trump Industries, whatever that is. We're out of time. Do you have one more chart to show us, CTO? That was a little bit of regulation too. The Taiwan, he confirmed. Crazy.
Sorry, just to say, I misspoke that. I don't think the Fed is going to cut rates. I think they're going to signal they will cut rates later this week.
So potentially signaling the end of quantitative tightening, correct?
Exactly.
Something like that. Yeah, I agree with that.
Our biggest DCA ever, by the way, this year. Over 13,000 people watching live. Don't forget, links below on my channel, watching all these other channels, follow all these legends as well. We have to wrap. We're going to wrap. A quick summary from everybody for the week ahead. Mando, still bullish, still positive.
We're going to get a bullish FOMC. I think we're going to see some form of resolution potentially here with what's going on in the Middle East as well. I said I thought Bitcoin hit all-time high. We came very close last week. I think Bitcoin is in the room with all-time highs every single week at the moment. I don't really know what throws it off.
Yeah, awesome, good stuff, Mando. CTO, thoughts for the week ahead?
I'm positive. I'm positive outlook for the market. Trend up. We're above resistance now again. I think third time could be the charm.
That was the dog, by the way, at my feet. I don't know if that noise, he yawned. Sounded really funny. Marty, wrap us up. Yes. Close us out.
Just based on the feelings from the community, just remember why Bitcoin was created. It was created from the trauma of the 2008 financial crisis. It's made for global volatility, global uncertainty, macroeconomic tension, monetary policy issues, human emotions, everything that's playing out with these wars Crypto was made for this. So selling crypto during these events is the worst mistake. And I know a lot of people sold over the last week based on mainstream media, and they're paying the price right now. Learn the lesson. This is when you buy. You buy crypto during times of fear, okay? And you sell during times of glee. And we'll wait for the glee. And on the show, the four of us will tell you when that is. And that's the way you got to do it. Don't make the same mistakes again. War is good for crypto. I know it's sad. The ethos is weird, but that's the way it is. The rich need a place to protect their money, and they found the Bitcoin vault, and they're putting it in, and they're saving their money. And that's the way it is.
It's funny. I've got a very cute, crude TradFi expression I have from nearly 35 years ago. I shouldn't say it, but I will. When the rockets fly, buy. Because
there you go.
Typically the sell-off happens into the event, and the people that sell at the event always lose. So just remember, always have some cash available for these opportunities. I want to thank everybody for coming. Big show this week. Don't forget, everybody, as Marty said, to keep apprised of what's going on. When the euphoria time kicks in, you'll be here with us, and we'll tell you exactly what's going down. Thank you so much, Mandy.
Marty, wear yellow shirt when it's time to sell.
Yellow for sell. It should be like a ejector cord or whatever, jumping out of a plane. Thank you all, everybody. You're legends. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to mods in the chat, TND, Tesla, Sean D, Jacob, K8, everybody else. And don't forget to subscribe to all these channels, links below.
Congrats for putting the show together, James. The four of us. I think this is the new all-in podcast, and well done. We did it.
That was Mando's vision.
Yep.
The DCA pod.
Never go all in, DCA.
Okay. Less noise, more signal. That's us. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye, guys.